Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a really powerful principle that literally lets you take control of your own mental state. We're going to break down the science of how your brain syncs up with everything around it, and then we're going to give you a practical way to use that science for yourself.
So let me just start by asking you a question. What if you could actually tune your brain like a radio? What if you could consciously flip a switch and go from feeling stressed out and scattered to a state of absolute peak performance in just a few minutes?
Well, this isn't some kind of sci-fi fantasy. It's real, and it's based on a natural tendency of your brain called neural entrainment. The idea is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly profound. Your brain is basically like a tuning fork, and it's built to vibrate and sync up with the rhythms it finds in its environment. Okay, so this whole tuning fork in our heads, how does that actually work? Let's dive in and look at the biology behind this whole thing. So, at its heart, neural entrainment is what scientists call a frequency-following response. And that sounds technical, but all it really means is this. When your brain is exposed to a steady, repeating pattern, like a beat or a flashing light, your neurons, the messengers in your brain, they literally start firing in time with that pattern. They start to dance to the same beat.
And you know what? This is happening to you all the time, whether you realize it or not. Think about how the beat of a song can instantly make you feel energized or super mellow. That's entrainment. Same thing with watching a flickering campfire, or the steady rhythm of your own breath when you're jogging, or even repeating a mantra. These are all external rhythms tuning your internal world.
Okay, so here is the really crucial part. Entrainment isn't just some random thing that happens. It's a mechanism, a tool that you can use to intentionally nudge your brain into different states. And each one of these states has its own signature frequency, its own brainwave.
Think of your brain like a radio with different channels. Way down at the slow end, you've got delta waves, that's for deep restorative sleep. A little faster, you get theta, which is linked to creativity and that deep meditative feeling. Then you have alpha, that's that calm, focused flow state where you feel totally in the zone. Now, most of our day we're in beta. That's for being alert and thinking, but it's also where stress and anxiety hang out. And at the very top, you have gamma waves. That's peak performance, those aha moments of insight.
And you might be thinking this all sounds super new age, or like some modern biohack. But actually, it's the total opposite. This is ancient wisdom that people have been using for thousands of years. It's just that now, modern neuroscience is finally proving it's real. Just think about it for a second. The steady beat of shamanic drumming was used to induce a theta state for feeling. Well, some modern trauma therapies are trying to do the exact same thing. The sound of Gregorian chants was meant to put the mind in a calm, focused alpha state for prayer. They didn't call it neural entrainment, they called it ritual. But the science behind it is exactly the same.
So, knowing all this is one thing. But what if you could stop just being a passive receiver of all these rhythms? What if you could step into the control room and become the architect of your own mental state?
This is where a framework from a source known simply as the architect comes into play. And it's based on this one powerful quote. Freedom is not the absence of entrainment, but the conscious choice of your own rhythm. See, the point isn't to avoid being tuned, because that's impossible. The point is to stop letting the world tune you by default and to start choosing your own frequency on purpose.
The very first principle of this framework is the law of dominant frequency. It's simple. The strongest rhythm in any system always wins. If your environment is a chaotic storm of news alerts, social media notifications, and constant noise, your brain will sink to that chaos unless you learn how to generate your own internal rhythm that is stronger, clearer, and more powerful.
Now, this next idea is an absolute game changer. It's called the coherent nexus. Here's the deal. The electromagnetic field generated by your heart is thousands of times stronger than the one generated by your brain. So what does that mean? It means you can use your body's hardware, your heart, to control your brain's software. By controlling your breathing, you create a steady rhythm in your heart, and that powerful signal basically commands your brain to follow its lead into a state of calm focus. And the final piece is called the interface. Just think of this as an active firewall for your mind. It's about being the bouncer at the door of your senses, consciously filtering what you let in. You can either let in all the chaotic, stressful frequencies from the outside world, or you can actively program your environment to support the state of mind you want to be in. Okay, so that's the theory. How do we actually put this all together and use it? Let's walk through a super practical 5-minute algorithm that you can use to shift your brain from that stressed out beta state to a focused peak performance gamma state. So it's a 3-step process, and it uses everything we've talked about. Step 1, for the first minute, you clean the interface.
Close your eyes and just visualize all those stressors shrinking and fading away until you feel neutral. Step 2, for the next 2 minutes, you activate the nexus. You start that rhythmic breathing. 4 seconds in, hold for 2, 6 seconds out, and focus on your heart to create that powerful coherence. And finally, for the last 2 minutes, you induce the gamma state. You can use a 40 Hz binaural beat or even some rapid breathing to literally push your brain into that high performance.
Now, that 5-minute protocol is fantastic when you have the time to do it. But what happens when you don't? What about those moments when you're suddenly hit with an unexpected wave of panic or overwhelm and your defenses are just gone?
For those exact moments, there's an emergency protocol. It's a 30-second circuit breaker to hard reset your nervous system. First 10 seconds, the shift. You look up without moving your head. This neurologically interrupts the emotional circuit. Next 10 seconds, the grip. You take a deep breath, bear down, and then release it with a long, audible sigh. That stimulates your vagus nerve and signals safety to your body. And in the final 10 seconds, the command. You stayed internally, system restored, architect at the controls, and you touch your pulse point, physically anchoring the feeling that you are back in charge.
Ultimately, when you pull back and look at all of these techniques and principles, they all point back to one central, incredibly powerful message. And that message is all about conscious choice.
So if you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this. Neural entrainment is always happening, right now. It's not a question of if your brain is going to sync up with a rhythm. The only question is which rhythm it's going to be. Will it be the chaotic, anxious frequency of the 24-hour news cycle? Or will it be a coherent, powerful rhythm of your own design?
In the end, this whole framework puts you in the driver's seat. It shows you that you are the architect of your own internal world. The science proves that the tools are available. They're built right into our biology. So the final question isn't whether your brain will sync to a frequency, it's what rhythm will you choose.